welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at 10 undervalued special illustration cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. As you all know, Scarlet and Violet is absolutely popping off. Prices are going up. It's just been the trend since 2025 began. Really around late October is when things start to pick up, sort of coinciding with the timing of Pocket TCG. And overall, things are just not slowing down. We don't know when the bubble will pop, if it will pop, or to what extent. I believe there should be a market correction at some point. But in the meantime, while these cards remain fairly inaccessible for most people, I want to take a look at some of the easier to collect cards from Scarlet and Violet, starting off with number 10, Penny SIR from Scarlet and Violet base set. We have the Okacheke artwork. This is I'd just say a very clean, simple artwork. I really think that the best part of this card is how the rays of sunlight are sort of penetrating through the castle. This looks like the Paldean school, either the Naranja Academy or I forget the other name, but that's basically the big school where Liko, Roy, and everyone sort of attend briefly. And Penny's basically a hacker. She's an evolution trainer. You know, there's all that little history behind her. And you can actually see slightly, it's not too apparent, but she's got an Eevee bag right there. But this is just unbeatable value, $5.73. A great artwork that's just been completely overlooked, and I have to say one of my favorites really in terms of trainers. Next up, we have the Great Tusks from Scarlet and Violet base set as well. You'll notice a lot of the early Scarlet and Violet cards are still kind of being slept on. Personally, I think that just is because hype is just going around in the later sets, and if you take a look at some of these cards, there really is some great artwork behind these. So this Great Tusks, I mean, I love the tornado, the sandstorm tornado with this sort of almost rift coloring happening in the sky. Very clean artwork overall, and $7.81. If we take a look at recent sales, filter for near mint, just as we always do, we see that this card is going for $763, $675. So it's kind of jumping between the under 7 over 7 range, but barely. Could be that this card is in for a bit of a plateau based off of those sales, but this is definitely not a price which you should feel too skeptical about getting. The thing with getting cards that are fairly undervalued like this is you only have so much downside. Next up, we have Dendra SIR from Paldea Evolved. This is such a gorgeous card. The blues are super vibrant, very nice texture on this card. Dendra is perhaps not the most loved character compared to characters such as Iono and characters such as Miriam, but nonetheless a fantastic artwork and a fairly fun character. The gym sort of athletics coach at the Naranja Academy, and just super clean. We see it going for $9.43. Actually been on the downward trend since mid-January, going from $10.69 all the way to $9.60. If we take a look at recent sales, we see it dropping further. The latest two sales going for a little under $9. Next, we have the Parasol Lady from Paradox Rift, and this is perhaps one of my favorite SARs of all of Scarlet and Violet. I particularly adore the rainbow that is reflecting in the character's eyes. A very shiny artwork. I was so stoked to get this one. I think you'll see why I mentioned this to be a very beautiful card. Price wise, going for $16.95, a little bit of a big jump. Actually, this card has been taking off recently. It's going for $13, $14. It's going up in value. If we take a look at recent sales, it's actually sort of penetrating a little bit. Not a massive jump in value per se. Actually, here we go. We can see the way the rainbows sort of reflecting is pretty nice and vibrant. Super nice pastel colorway. Next, we have the Meowscarada. This is going to be Liko's partner, I'm sure. Eventually, she had Sprigatito as her starter. It's already evolved into Floragato. Presumably, soon will become Meowscarada. So the new sort of main character's partner is this Pokemon. Again, in Paldea Evolve, we have the 3 Paldean starters and their entire line as it goes. So we have the 2 art rares preceding it for Floragato and Sprigatito. Sprigatito particularly being a really great artwork. If you take a look at the price, $17.35, and a very nice line. I think story cards really were done well in Scarlet and Violet, particularly so far. We haven't seen too many of them, but in Paldea Evolved, there were these three lines that were introduced. This is hands down my favorite card from Scarlet and Violet base, and I managed to pull this, funny enough. This was my first SIR from the Scarlet and Violet era. I pulled it out of a build and battle box during pre-release, and was super stoked. The Dene at the front, of course, very cute, but overall the jungle vibe, Koraidon being a little bit more rustic and dragon-esque compared to Miraidon, it just always was my preference towards this one. I actually got the Scarlet game compared to the Violet game just because of Koraidon. One thing that just annoyed me so much, though, was in the game you can't actually ride it like a bike. You have to just kind of run around on it on his four legs, whereas Miraidon actually goes on a bike. That annoyed me so much as a completely random tangent. If you take a look at the price for Miraidon, sort of steadily climbing over the past year, 127% gain, but still under $20. Recently, this card had a bit of a dip during the mid sort of summertime, dropping down all the way to a little bit under 10, and now it's jumped up quite a bit. For number 4, we have Penny from Paldean Fates. Really no other reason for me picking this card beyond the two obvious ones is the Eevee backpack and of course the Umbreon, and I'm actually surprised that people haven't picked up this card simply for this Umbreon right here. Things just going so crazy for evolutions, but again, this card has also picked up in value quite heavily. This card was never too expensive, and this seems to be a peak for it. I don't think it was any higher than this, or substantially higher than this, even when it was first released. I say debut for after pre-release, genuine initial value, so I don't think his debut price was really much higher than that either. So, I feel like even if this card drops a little bit, it'll have potential because of the Umbreon. Next, we have the Miraidon EX. This card is just great because of, the Fido dog, so everyone loves dogs, and particularly this little bakery dog. Miraidon is very beautiful artwork, and personally, although I like Koraidon more, most people tend to veer towards Miraidon, and so again we have the futuristic version versus the ancient version for Koraidon, and it's a pretty nice background with Miraidon sort of flying through the cityscape. Seems to be a Pokemon Center in the background, and a Fido just looking up at it, and they're having a bit of a cute interaction right there. Currently going for $23.64. Again, a card that's been growing steadily, but if you'll see, it actually isn't too much of a gain beyond its June pricing, so there is that to consider as well. Recent sales indicate that the card could be going down in value. I would keep an eye out for this card dropping because it's definitely a great pickup. Next up is Chi-Yu, and this is almost like a gold altar. It is not, obviously, but I actually placed this in my binder alongside my Crown Zenith gold altars because I just feel like they fit so well together, and it's off the charts, this thing's texture and its color scheme. I mean, the way the sun penetrates through the water and we see sort of the plantation under the sea, it's a really nice vibe. Particularly this Chi-Yu sort of is illuminated around its edges because of the lighting. One other card that looks like this is the Ninetales from Obsidian Flame, which I have preached and said is a great investment many times in the past. This Chi-Yu is also crazy undervalued, $27. If you take a look at the past year, actually, interestingly, it's gone down since its high of $40 and still hasn't recovered to that peak. Yet it still had an 80% gain over the past year. So as you can see, there is good appreciation for this card, and it could realize that in the future. For number 1, we have, of course, Miriam SAR, and the reasons are sort of twofold. Not only is Miriam a very loved character, and this is a fantastic artwork with the Pikachu in the background, mind that. And this card was really quite expensive during release. It was going for over $100 easily during pre-release. Upon release, its debut price was around $80, $90. Started to drop slowly to $60, $50, and then we just ended up here at $35 after all these years of Scarlet Violet. We're almost over with the Scarlet Violet era, which is kind of crazy to say. 30th anniversary coming next year and all that. But when the Scarlet Violet era caps, I think this card is definitely going to hold its place in the history of the Pokemon TCG, particularly as the first ever Pokemon trainer SIR, or supporter SIR to be honest, and again, a very loved character as is. An honorable mention I wanted to take note of was Morty's Conviction. This is sort of like a bonus edition I just wanted to mention. I don't necessarily think this card is undervalued, but I could see it gaining value purely because of the Gengar in this card. Just like the Penny, because of its Umbreon, this is again a very popular Pokemon, and we haven't seen a Gengar get a proper SIR yet, or even art rare. I mean, the Ghastly is there, and it's kind of like jumping around in the background, but for Gengar itself, there isn't really a card yet. So this is as close as we got to it, apart from that Ghastly card. But yeah, hope y'all enjoyed the video today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. And let me know in the comments down below what your favorite card is from this list. I'll catch you all in the next one.